Venom versus Crona. I don't know how to deal with that. Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is the Raptor, and welcome back to another one of my Death Battle prediction videos. Before you guys ask, yes, this fight is legitimate. It was revealed in the most recent episode of Death Battle Cast, and we knew that Crona was coming eventually, and it turns out that Crona is fighting Venom from Marvel. Now, if you're excited for this fight, that's great. I totally understand it, and I'm not here to tell you that you shouldn't be excited for something, but I personally am not very excited for this fight for a good number of reasons. The first reason is because I think Crona has much better opponents than Venom. Obviously, the two big opponents that a lot of people were talking about in regards to Crona were Ryuko from Kill la Kill and Shiro from Dead Man Wonderland. And even though I clearly know Venom a lot better than either of those two other characters, I looked a little bit into those other characters to see, how good of a fight it would be if either of them were paired up with Crona. And I thought, like, wow, those would be some really cool fights. Like, thematic-wise, everything like that would be a really cool fight to discuss. But then it was revealed to be Venom, and it was like, well, I feel like there's a bit of a missed opportunity there. I get that Venom and Crona still have connections in their own ways, but I don't know. I feel like thematically, either Ryuko or Shiro would have been better opponents for Crona, but I guess that's not what's happening. Again, even though I know Venom more than those other two characters, I don't know, I'm still disappointed that we got Venom instead of one of those other two characters. And also there's the fact that they've been using a lot of comic characters recently, and if you guys have seen this channel before, you guys know that I'm the last one who will say, oh, you're using too many Marvel or DC characters. But I gotta admit, we've been using a lot of them recently, or they've been using a lot of them recently, and it seems a bit like overkill at this point. Actually, it seems like they've been using a lot of comic characters and anime characters recently, and now we have both of them, one of each fighting each other, so that's kind of interesting. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, I feel like, if you want to put Marvel characters in Death Battle, you could come up with something better than this. Again, if you're really excited for this, then that's cool. I understand it. But I don't know. It just doesn't really work for me. It's not the fight that I would really want to see. When it comes to Venom or Crona, honestly. Also, before I forget, I just want to say that Crona doesn't use male or female pronouns. In fact, I think the pronoun that Crona does use in the manga doesn't exist in English. It's not an English word. So I'm just going to try my best to refer to Crona as they for the majority of this video. And if I accidentally use a male or female pronoun, I apologize because I feel like it might happen. It might just slip out. But yeah, I just want to get that out of the way. Let's continue. The biggest reason ultimately why I don't like the idea of this fight is because this feels very much like Carnage versus Lucy all over again. And I don't just mean in the sense like it's a Marvel character versus an anime character or it's going to play out the exact same way or anything like that. It's because, okay, whether or not you agree with Carnage versus Lucy, the reasoning that they gave for Lucy winning was because Lucy overall had better power and speed, like when you compare her vectors to Carnage's symbiote, and she had ways to kill Carnage. Like she was properly equipped, like with her nuclear punches, in order to be able to kill Carnage. And when you have someone like Carnage, you basically need both of those things. You need to be able to stand up to Carnage in physical combat, and you need ways to kill him. Lucy had both of those things, so she won. Okay, fine, makes sense. The problem though is that this is literally the exact same thing. The only questions that we need to ask ourselves are, can Crona stand up to Venom, physically speaking, or ideally can Crona surpass Venom's physical capabilities, and do they have the means to actually kill Venom, like actually get past Venom's durability? Because when it comes to a symbiote, you really need one of those weaknesses in order to be able to kill a symbiote, because otherwise they're just way too durable and they have way too much stamina, unless you're like insanely powerful to the point where it doesn't even matter. But yeah, really the fact is, if Crona meets those two criteria, then almost definitely Crona's gonna win. But if Crona can't meet both of those criteria, realistically, even if only they can meet one, then Venom is most likely gonna win. So, this seems to be the case with all symbiotes, the more that I think about it, because when it comes to having symbiotes, at least from Marvel in Death Battle, it's really just a question of, can the opponent meet those two criteria? Can they stand up to them physically, and do they actually have ways of killing the opponent, or killing the symbiote, I mean. So, I guess I'm not really upset with the fight in general, I'm just more upset that they're using another symbiote. If I had it my way, actually, I'd prefer if they just stopped using symbiotes in Death Battle, because it's literally going to go the exact same way, no matter what. It's just those two criteria that the opponent has to meet, and if they can meet them, then they win. If they can't meet them, then the symbiote wins. So, I almost feel like I know how this fight is going to go either way, you know what I mean? Like, if Crona wins, I know what they're gonna say, and if Venom wins, I know what they're gonna say. So like I said before, like there are times where I'm looking at fights and I'm like, no matter what happens, I'm going to be satisfied. But this one almost feels like no matter what happens, I'm not going to be satisfied because I already know how it's going to go. So I don't know. Those kind of fights get boring after a while. You know what I mean? Where it's really a matter of if. And, you know, if yes, then this, or if no, then this. So, I don't know. This fight just feels very boring to analyze because of that reason. And then you have the question of what does Crona actually have to do in order to win this fight? Do they have to kill just the host? Do they have to kill both the host and the symbiote? Because if that's the case, I'm not sure if Crona would be able to do that. Or at least it would be a very big undertaking for Crona to be able to pull off. Because Crona, or I guess I should say Ragnarok, like the sword, does have, you know, sonic attacks, like that whole screeching thing, which I'll definitely talk more about later. But from my understanding, that doesn't actually kill the symbiote. If anything, it just weakens the bond between the host and the symbiote, exposing the host underneath. You know what I mean? Like, from what I understand, I don't think Crona or Ragnarok have any sort of, like, fire attacks or any sort of, like, heat attacks that could actually, like, really do some substantial damage, enough to the point where it would actually kill both the symbiote and the host, you know what I mean? So if Crona had to do both of those things, unless Crona is much more powerful than from what I understand, then I don't think Crona would be able to pull that off. But if we're just talking like, oh, all Crona has to do is, you know, expose the host and kill the host, then on paper, yeah, there's a really good case to be made for Crona winning, because Crona, again, has like some insane physical stats, which we'll talk about later, and they have sonic weapons, or Ragnarok has, you know, sonic weapons or a sonic attack. So yeah, on paper, there's a really good chance to be made for Crona winning. But see, that's the thing. That's only on paper. We know that Death Battle can sometimes find feats that nobody knows about. You know what I mean? Like, they could find a feat, maybe a Venom resisting sound, to the point where it would actually be able to resist any of Crona's sonic attacks. And then at that point, everything that I say in my prediction would be completely flipped on its head, you know what I mean? Just because I don't know about that one feat. Or there might be a feat where Venom does something incredible physically, which puts him ahead of anything Crona's done, you know what I mean? So, as I've said before in some other videos, I already feel like kind of doing Death Battle predictions is kind of pointless unless you like have all the information, because again, Death Battle could just find something that, you know, completely flips your argument on its head. But this one especially feels that way because again, Crona needs to meet those two criteria, and if they can just find one feat for Venom that disproves either of those criteria, then Crona can't win, you know what I mean? On paper, it looks like Crona can win, but again, I don't have all the answers, I don't have all the feats. So if Venom has something that I just don't know about, then of course, you know, maybe Crona wouldn't be able to kill Venom. But it's just, I have to go off of what I know of, and I just know that if I'm wrong, it's because I don't know about one feat that just puts it in Venom's favor. So again, I really just don't like this fight. There are too many things about this fight that just really bug me. With that all being said though, I am still going to try my best, analyze these characters to the best of my ability, and just give my prediction. So when it comes to the whole stat debate, like who's better in terms of stats, I do want to say that when it comes to overall power output and speed, Crona has the advantage. It's interesting what they're going to do with scaling Venom. You know, when it comes to his speed, I feel like they've lowballed his speed before. I don't believe he's just Mach 2, especially when it comes to who he's been able to fight against. But I also don't know where they're going to place the higher limits of his speed, assuming that they do go against the Mach 2 thing now. They might still go with Mach 2, I don't know. I understand the whole point about him not having the spider sense, so realistically he shouldn't be quite as fast as Spider-Man, even though we can still fight on par with him. But the reason that he can fight on par with him is because he negates the spider sense. So there's that to think about as well. You know, even though he can fight on par with Spider-Man, I don't think he's actually shown any impressive, like, light speed, reaction speed. And, you know, scaling to someone who has some light speed capabilities is not nearly as good as having your own light speed reaction feats, you know what I mean? So, while I think that he's definitely faster than Mach 2, I don't think Death Battle is going to pin him at, like, light speed reaction time, and personally, I think that's pretty fair. I think that's fair to not put him quite at that level, but I still think he's way faster than Mach 2. And when it comes to his strength, it's a known fact that he's stronger than Spider-Man, and Death Battle themselves have even said that, oh yeah, Spider-Man can hit with like multi-kiloton level of force, you know? So of course you can reasonably put Venom even higher than that. But again, it's hard to say how far they're going to extrapolate that to. You know, he has fought, you know, Hulk and Juggernaut before, but I think that more so goes with his durability durability. I don't think they're going to attribute that much to his strength. So, you know, again, you could put it like, I guess, somewhere in the multi-kiloton range of striking power, if you really want to go there. You could really try to extrapolate these things out. Like, you can try to use, like, unreliable scaling methods to say, like, oh, Venom is, you know, beyond strong and beyond fast, or whatever you mean. But, like, even so, I think that Crona has more reliable scaling in that way. In fact, I think Crona's actually shown off a feat where they, like, destroy a city or something, or it's like a city level attack or whatever, possibly even like island level. So that's like significantly past the point of Venom, at least normally, from what we've normally seen from him. And when it comes to speed, again, I think there's more reliably scaling to faster than light characters, like characters who travel at the speed of light more often than someone like Spider-Man, you know what I mean? So I think the speed gap isn't huge, but it's still significantly there, and I think the power gap definitely lies in Crona's favor. So again, when looking at the stats, I do think that Crona edges out just because there's more reliable scaling that you can do, and Crona just has better feats of their own that put them at that kind of level. And when it comes to durability, this one's a little weird because, again, Venom kind of gets the durability edge by default because, again, you really need one of those weakness exploitations in order to be able to put him down. And again, like, if they really go the whole route, like, he can take hits from the Hulk and Juggernaut, then yeah, like, I definitely think he has the durability advantage, even though Crona still has some good pain tolerance and durability and healing. I just think they're going to give the durability advantage to Venom. But, you know, again, you know, the whole thing, like, oh yeah, taking hits from Hulk and Juggernaut, that doesn't necessarily mean that he can resist the weaknesses to that level, you know? So how does Crona fare there? But again, I feel like that's more up for Death Battle to decide, you know what I mean? Because they're gonna look at all the feats of Venom resisting sonic attacks, and they're gonna, you know, compare it to Crona's best sonic attacks or Ragnarok's best sonic attacks, you know, the screeching stuff, and, you know, see how they compare. And the fact is, I just don't know all of Venom's feats. I don't know the exact calculations for those feats. Hell, I don't even know the exact calculations for Ragnarok's best feats, you know? So again, I feel like that's more up for Death Battle to decide. And if they just go with, oh, you know, Venom has survived more than what Crona's capable of, then again, I don't see many ways that Crona would be able to take out Venom. So again, there's that dynamic that I don't really love. But, you know, in terms of Venom's best feats in that regard, or at least one of them, the best one that I know about was when I believe Venom once resisted one of Hulk's thunderclaps. But again, you know, the thunderclaps can vary in terms of destructive capability. They're able to push back explosions most of the time, but again, explosions come in all different sizes, so it's really hard to quantify that. I'm sure if Death Battle decides to go that route, they will find a way to quantify it. I just don't know how. So again, it's really hard for me to say whether or not Crona would be able to actually, like, force the symbiote off of the host altogether, but I want to say that Ragnarok has the screeching power to at least expose the host for limited amounts of time, because the over-the-top nature of the screeching attacks is just crazy. Like, I believe at its best, Ragnarok can, like, you know, bisect a ship and, you know, do something really weird to the moon. It was crazy, but I believe it was, you know, done with one of Ragnarok's sonic attacks. So I want to say that if Crona keeps using that over and over again, which, by the way, will already start to weaken the bond between Venom and the host in general, or the symbiote and the host in general, which is good for Crona, then I feel like they'll be able to actually do some real damage to the host and possibly be able to kill it. Again, you know, Death Battle could completely prove that wrong with one of the feats that they find, but I want to say that Crona does have the potential to at least expose the host, and then with Crona's superior speed, I want to say that they'd be able to do some real damage to the host once he's exposed. And if Crona can expose the host underneath, then they've got some real deadly abilities that they can use to go in for the kill. For example, of course, there's the whole Black Blood stuff, you know, the whole shape-shifting and hardening. I believe if the Black Blood, like, surrounds a victim, it can actually induce corrosion, which could do some real damage to the symbiote. That's a little hard to say, but that could definitely be interesting. And of course, like, the Black Blood can do a bunch of other crazy stuff. I don't want to talk about it too much, but of course Crona has that. There's also the whole madness-inducing ability, and that's actually really interesting. You know, as much as I don't really like the idea of this fight, I am really interested in seeing how that's gonna work, because at first I just want to say, oh, Venom has mental resistance instances, so the madness just wouldn't work on him. But the whole point of the madness is that it's supposed to disrupt the concentration and like the symbiotic relationship between the human and their weapon, their sentient weapon in the Soul Eater universe, because that's just kind of the way that the characters work, or the main characters at least. So I'm interested in seeing, like, would that actually extend to Venom? I know it's not the exact same thing, but you know, if Crona can actually induce madness on just the host, maybe that could actually disrupt the symbiotic relationship between the host and the symbiote. That's actually really interesting. I could see Death Battle going either way with that, and maybe there's something that actually definitively proves one way or the other, but I'm interested in seeing how that's going to work. And of course, Crona's got so many other abilities. I could actually talk about Crona's abilities forever, but I don't want to go too much into versatility because, again, I feel like with this kind of fight dynamic, it doesn't really matter too much, except for the stuff that could really, like, you know, what is it? Except for the stuff that can really exploit Venom's weaknesses. And of course, Venom has ways to kill Crona as well. Like, Venom's got a lot of different abilities. The acid spit could probably do some real damage. The camouflaging could probably keep him a step ahead, you know, at least for a little bit. And then there's the whole shape-shifting, of course, although they both have shape-shifting powers. Again, these guys are very versatile. I could keep talking about their versatility, but I feel like the main point is that both of these characters do have ways of killing the other, but it's just with Crona's superior stats, I feel like they have a better chance of killing Venom than the other way around. Again, all of what I've said could be disproved just by one or two feats that Death Battle finds for Venom, but ultimately, again, if they both truly have ways to kill each other, then Crona's superior stats just put them in a better position. You know, it just makes it so that they have better opportunities to exploit the weaknesses of Venom than the other way around. And again, you know, with the whole thing about the symbiotes, it looks to me like Crona does have superior stats that outmatch Venom's, at least when it comes to overall power and speed, and they have ways to, you know, exploit a weakness and go in for the kill. I feel like Crona does meet those two criteria, at least from my understanding, so I want to say that Crona's going to win. Of course, though, you know, if Venom wins, I know the reasoning that they're going to go with. It's that Venom has some feat that can disprove one or both of those criteria. So, again, I don't really love this fight that much, but based on what I do know and based on my understanding of these characters, I think that Crona's going to win. I think that Crona has ways to put down Venom, and, you know, if they don't, if Death Battle finds a feat that proves that they don't, then that's fine, whatever. But based on what I do know, you know, I gotta go with my gut, right? Like, based on what I do know about these characters, I want to say that Crona does have the potential to put Venom down. If it were just based off of stats, then, like, I would definitely say that Crona would win. But again, it's the whole, you know, symbiote thing, how you can't really kill a symbiote without exploiting a weakness, that really, like, is iffy for me. But I think that Crona ultimately does have the potential to pull it off, so I'm going with Crona. But what do you guys think? Do you think Venom's gonna win? Do you think Crona's gonna win? Why? Let me know why down in the comments below. I'd really like to hear what you guys have to say. If you enjoyed this video, please give this video a huge like. I always appreciate the likes. Leave your comments down in the comments below. Subscribe if you could too, that'd be amazing. But no matter what you guys do, thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And that's it for me. I will see all of you guys in the next video. Peace out.